Hey guys, I'm Mike Bills with Measurable Solutions, and this is Whiteboard Wednesday. And today we are talking about the ever-ending question: how to get patients to show up for their appointments, right? That is every PT's dream, problem, etc. Whatever side of the coin you're on that. If everybody's showing up, you've got the dream case. If nobody's showing up or half your patients are showing up, you got the problem case, whatever. But how to ensure that your patients are going to show up all the time, without question, without fail, etc. And I know in previous Whiteboard Wednesdays, I've talked about the fact that we run basically, in my clinic, we run what's called a patient arrival rate. And so that is, real quick, that's the number of patients that were scheduled today compared to the number of patients that show up. And we get frustrated when we're running at 96 or 97% arrival rate, meaning that 3 or 4% of our patients aren't showing up. And whether you have 10 patients on your schedule or 100 patients on your schedule or 1,000 patients on your schedule today, that's a huge number. So I challenge you to work on your patient arrival rate. But how to ensure that your patients show up? Well, the number one thing is you need to create value for what you're doing. Your patients need to see the value in this. I tell my staff all the time, we are providing a service that people can't put their hands on. Sure, we say, oh, their shoulder feels better, or I taught them how to do these exercises, or they've got more mobility, etc. But they can't physically put their hands on something. And people buy and are compliant with things that they can put their hands on and physically touch and feel. So you think about it. You go down to the corner Starbucks, you spend $6 on a cup of coffee because you can hold it. You feel good when you're holding it and walking around with it. It tastes good. It warms you up if it's winter, whatever it might be. There's a value to that. But the value of my shoulder being in less pain, but I still have some pain, or I have more mobility, but I don't have all my mobility, there's not a real understanding of value there. And so your staff have to be very skilled at creating and helping your patients to understand the value of what you're doing. Because if the patient understands the value, they will pay that copay, they will pay that deductible, they will pay that coinsurance, and they will show up for every single visit without question. Now, the next piece to that is you have to make sure that your patients understand what your expectations of them are. And that's a real simple, honest, down-to-earth conversation with the patient, by the therapist, by your front desk staff, that starts on the very first visit. Hey, Joe, I know you're having these problems with your shoulder. Here's the goals of therapy. Here's where I think you're going to end up in terms of the outcomes. And here's what we're going to have to do in order to achieve that. You're going to have to be here 3 times a week for 2 weeks, twice a week for the next few weeks after that. And we're going to need to see you for a total of 16 visits. I'm just grabbing numbers. And those 16 visits, we're going to be able to do blah, 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 blah. And that's creating the value. But I expect, Joe, that you're here for every appointment that you schedule. And so do we have an agreement right now that you're going to be here for 3 times a week for the next number of weeks, and that you're going to come for 16 visits? And Joe's got 2 options at that point. I don't really think I can do that. Okay, he doesn't have the value part handled yet, so you got to go back to that step. Or, yeah, 16 visits, I can do that. $40 each time I come, I can do that, because I see the importance of getting my shoulder moving and being able to throw the ball with my kids in the yard, etc. And once you've done that, you got to just be honest with patients. You might have said 16 visits in the beginning. Hey, Joe, I know we said 16 visits in the beginning, but it's looking like it's taken us a little bit longer to get through some of your motion stuff. I need you to work a little bit harder at home with some exercises, but I also need to make sure that I get you in here for another week after the 16. So the 16 is really going to be 18. And you got to have a conversation with him. You got to go back and create value for those last 2. Joe, here's why I don't want to let you go early. I don't want to let you finish at 16 because you've got almost all of your motion, but my concern is that shoulder's going to freeze right back up, or whatever it might be, right? But again, I got to be honest with him. I can't, and I gotta just have that conversation and that communication. And when you do all of these 3 things, your patients are going to show up, and they're going to show up for all their appointments. And guess what happens when they show up for all their appointments? They get better. They're successful discharges. They go out in the community and they make your good works known. So they're free promotion. And everybody's happy. Your staff is happy because they get people better. That's what they got into this for in the first place. And you're happy because you got a schedule that's filled. You don't have cancellations, etc., because people are showing up. So create value for what you do. Explain the expectations to the patient. That starts on the very first visit. And be honest with your patients all the way along. And your staff should be honest with them, and your front desk should be honest with them, and be honest with them and have that communication with them. So Hey, I would love to hear some thoughts you guys have about cancellations and how to get your patients to show up. If you've got suggestions of things that worked in your practice, share them with people in the comment section below, because everybody can always learn. And I'd love to hear from it. If you've got some wins that you get from this or any other Whiteboard Wednesday, let me know about those as well. But thanks for showing up for this one, and I hope to see you for next week's Whiteboard Wednesday next week. Take care. Have a great day.